breaking down some of the complexities that people have developed around sustainability, because basically sustainability is very simple, very easy to understand. It's just being made complicated by a lot of other people. That I've been in project management for several years. I was one of the national board members for the Australian Institute of Project Management for 9 years. And my passion is trying to get people to get more out of what they do, stop wasting too much time, and to actually get on with achieving things and helping people to understand what they're achieving. So that's when I sort of found sustainability, and the two have been a bit of a mix since then to understand more about it and to be able to explain to people. I'm also a trainer and I do training in sustainability. So my package is project management, contract management, and sustainability management. So I've got a reasonable interest in the whole thing and how to help people get on with their real lives.
Very good, very good. So you are a kind of success coach for sustainability.
So a little bit, but also being involved in the commercial side of it, of commercializing sustainability, but also breaking down some of the complexities that people have developed around sustainability, because basically sustainability is very simple, very easy to understand. It's just being made complicated by a lot of other people. Because sustainability, if you go back into history, it's always been there. It's just that now we've put a label on it and we've packaged it up with principles and goals and understandings and all that. But its history goes back centuries or even millenniums about full sustainability. We've forgotten how to learn from our past.
Right. I think this is a very well point which you have mentioned, and I found it, you have mentioned also in your forum that we need to simplify the whole concept, the jargons of sustainability. This is very well taken point, and everybody to simplify what exactly sustainability is all about, right? So if I rephrase you, right now we are in a phase where we have make the sustainability concept very complex, putting goals, this and that and all that. It's a time, if you want to apply sustainability more on your life condition, each of the individuals in the planet, if they wanted to go and live sustainably, we need to simplify the whole idea. And that's very important. And so from these, I would like to ask you, how is like that there are many ancient cities, there are cities we have Indus Valley civilization here, we have different cities on US and other parts of the world, which have been able to stay for a much longer period than the other kind of structures. So do you think that sustainability is something which has made civilizations on the history survive or not survive? It was the factor which makes some of the civilizations survive and remain, and some of the civilizations could not sustain and remain just because they have no sustainable practices. So is it there something which you have?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely, because when you look back over history, sustainability, modern sustainability is about how we're protecting the planet, protecting our environment, protecting people, and protecting society. Well, if you go back to the ancient Mayans, for instance, they worshipped the spirit gods. They understood the seasons. They understood the impact of the seasons on farming and on people. They developed food security techniques to be able to feed the people well, because they understood that good food complemented good health, which then contemplated a sustainable creation for them over many, 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 many centuries. The ancient Egyptians did the same thing. They worshipped their gods of nature. And if you go back to even the indigenous people, throughout history, throughout the world, everybody has always developed an understanding of how they've got to work with nature. And if they work in a partnership with nature, then they're working well. That's why when I started to write the books, I was writing books about the snow country and the understanding of how the various seasons impact on the lives of the people there, the communities, how the communities have grown up around the seasons. And when you start looking at one, you go back then over time to the Eskimos and all sorts of other people in snow country to say these people have developed an understanding. Then what's happened more recently, modern people have moved in there and said, this is what you're going to do. Well, that's not how we've done it before. So you tend to lose that history of how to exist with people, with nature, and how to learn from nature, and how to coexist and be able to get the most out of your environment, and understand that if you muck up the environment, you're mucking up yourself. So you have to work with nature, and then nature will work with you, so long as you understand it and respect it. And when you look around, we've looked at snow areas, we've looked at some of the emerging economies in Eastern Europe. We've looked at the island areas throughout the Pacific, and the Pacific is one area in which nature has been there for centuries. There are still people today who believe that when you die, you come back as crocodiles, or you come back as sharks. And most of the ancient Asian civilizations have all understood the link there. And when you look back at the development of religion, the religious areas, the Islamics, the Christians, the Hindus, Buddhisms, all basically, if you cut through the modern jargon, have bases which are very similar. The stories are very similar, and they all come back to how you must work with the environment that you've been given, and how we can get the most out of that by learning to exist, and how to be able to have peace, harmony. And the two mottos that we've put into the books has been that all lives matter. It doesn't matter what colour you are, what creed, culture you are, all lives matter, and all environments matter, because we have to all live together within this planet, because we haven't got any other planets to live on. And the more harmony we can bring in, the better off we'll be. Because if you look back over history with war, millions and millions of people have been killed as a result of problems with religion, culture, expansionism, imperialism, whatever label you like to put onto it. But when people understand how to get along with people better, harmony is easier to achieve, prosperity is easier, and it's just trying to break down these silly barriers that mankind has created for itself. And the modern sustainability is an attempt to bring everybody together and to say, let's get on better, let's learn from the past, let's learn from past mistakes, because every culture has had its mistakes, don't try and eradicate the mistakes, try and learn from them and build a modern society that is built on the good things that we've developed over the years. When you go back over tradition, you look at art, culture, economics, markets, sports, they've all had their roots in ancient times. After all, if you went to the Colosseum when it was in operation, you would have a ticket. You would turn up to the Colosseum with your ticket and go to a booth to allow entry in, and that ticket would allow you to sit in particular parts of the building. They had food and beverage outlets there for you to buy food and drinks. Any stadium today, you look back and it has its roots in ancient times. You go down to the local markets and you want to buy fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. The market traditions go back to ancient times of trading, money, arithmetic, astrology, to understand the development of agriculture and understanding how you can't go and wipe out whole styles of existence, like can't go out and overfish the oceans because there's only a certain limit of things there. Most of the old peoples understood that and understood how to manage their resources because that was the only food they had. So there's a lot to be learned from the ancients, and even to the terms of in health, understanding things like yoga and all of the ancient medicines that came from herbs, and understanding some of them were a bit wacky, but that was how we evolved and how we understood better some of the traditions. But peace and harmony within themselves, then translated to peace and harmony within societies, order and principles of sustainability were always in there.
But that's a large bite. Let me rephrase and break it down into small chunks. The first chunk was like there has been in ancient culture, there has been a very collaborative relation between nature and people, and they have always contributed each other. It's a kind of partnership they work with. And it is like in post, it is in the phase of the pre-industrialization civilization. But industrialization changed. I think that's a very important mark on our civilization. That after industrialization, the relationship between human beings and the nature have deteriorated, right? So probably after that we see. As you rightly mentioned, that there has been in all ancient cultures, there has been a very good relationship between nature and human beings. And I think that it came very good up to the industrial civilization. After the industrial civilization, when we started mass production, bring up industry, carbon emission, all that stuff came up. Then we have irresponsible consumptions and the nature, the partnership between human beings and nature, they were just not there. So I think that is something which is very, but at the same time, when you say that everything, when you go up, if I rephrase you right, then, correct me if I'm wrong, that everything, everything, whatever, if you see in modern civilization, whatever, it might be, the marketing, it might be the trading, it might be just the sports. It has its root in ancient culture. So it has evolved from there and it has become what you see right now. And if we really wanted to correct ourselves, if we really wanted to put ourselves in a right track, the very important thing is that we go to the root from where it began, right? And that's the way you should approach. If right now we are in one after another crisis, we have a climate crisis, and then we have this corona crisis. and it is actually, it is a snowball effect. It is actually starting out in India. It's starting out in economic crisis, and after that economic crisis, it is snowballing into a mental health crisis. People are doing suicides, and have been serious mental health crisis. So you are seeing a humanity is, it's inside a bundle of crisis, one after coming up. It's not like ending up that you have a period, this comes and then you are into a bit of a bundle of crisis. So somewhere our contract with nature, our partnership with nature has come into a very troublesome zone. That we are not walking. We are not walking. And as you said, there were systems like, in India we have this system called yoga, which we practice and we teach. And we have seen that when a people starts practicing yoga, they becomes very connected with nature. They starts appreciating the nature. Probably this is an ancient, very a practice of Indian indigenous people. So they start. So from that practice, we can understand one thing, that the people, our ancestors, were very conscious with nature, and they had very good collaboration with nature, which is not existing right now. So after that, from the reference from your books, the books which you are writing one after another with sustainability, and the beautiful cover pages you're making, I'm seeing there's a lot of creative art coming up on the cover pages. You're trying to, what was the basic thing? What do you wanted to achieve out of these books? What do you wanted to give what is your core message of the book which you wanted to give to the people the world?
I think the big book, the one about the ancients, summarizes it well in 4 words in the title: past influences, lessons learnt. So we know that we've been influenced by our past. We know that there are lessons there, but have we stopped listening? Have we stopped learning from the past? And we've just simply created, we know best, so therefore do it our way. And it hasn't worked. We've got to get back to, as you say, our roots, to understand where we came from, why we came from it, and understand that around the world, yes, we've got coronavirus, but 100 years ago we had Spanish flu.
Yes.
And before that we had the Black Plague.
Absolutely.
It's not new. We had to learn from it. This time we got, in what we term, we got caught with our pants down, because we had a new epidemic come through, and modern medical facilities weren't geared to deal with another pandemic. But we all knew it was coming eventually. So we've forgotten the lessons. If you go back through to, I believe it's also in the Indian culture as well, the concept for Mother Earth, Mother Nature. The fact that in many countries, the women own the land. The men only look after it. But the maternal mother is the earth and nature. You go back to the goddess Athena, and it was the Egyptian god Ra. You go back to some of the traditions with the Hindu and Buddhisms. The principles there are all about nature, the earth, the stars, the water, where we came from, where we go to, how we have to live as one with nature. And when we forget those, when we forget the lessons, we cause problems. But if we can get back to understanding it, and the biggest lesson we can all learn comes from the current problem everybody's got with the interracial issues and the multicultural issues, which in America have caused a lot of riots. And that's why we've always, in our books, my books have always written in there, all lives matter, all environments matter. We all have things, as I said there before, we all have things in our past that when we look back, we regret that they ever occurred. Massacres, wars, ideology issues, the Second World War with the attempt to eradicate the Jewish people, the issues in Australia with the stolen generation, with our Indigenous people, slavery, imperialism, where people like Britain came out and said to India, we're here, we're your new rulers. You've only been doing it yourself for thousands of years, but here we are, we're bringing British rule over India and Singapore, various other countries. So we've got things that we can not be proud of. But instead of trying to forget them, we have to go back to learning from them and learning how to rebalance ourselves and re-inject harmony into our lives so that we can easily listen to the lessons that are coming out from nature.
Right. So let me summarize what I have covered or what we have covered up to now. It's very interesting to come up with the first point, which you say that there is a collaboration which was existing between nature and human being earlier in the ancient culture, which has deteriorated over a point of time. And in your book, what the message you're trying to give is one very important message, that you have to learn from the past mistakes. You have to go back to your root and you have to learn from the past mistake. That's very important. The modern civilization has to improve on the mistakes which I have made earlier. And that's very important. And, you know, when you were also talking about that, how peace and harmony can be created, because you were talking about wars, you were talking about how there are racial discrimination, how there are different kinds of, you know, conflicts from different layers which has been erupting in the society. And probably you have charted a very, what do you say, a very integrated vision, a vision which is has to be discussed much more. It's too short a session to elaborate such an integrated vision, which has been talking about many areas, many things across. But as because this is a very short session or short interview we are taking, probably we'll take a series of interviews with you to understand it. But let me come with what is happening right now in the world, and to end up, to summarize and to end up the session. We have this Swedish kid which is taking the world in a thunderous mode and saying that you the people who are the next generation, who are you have never taken care of the world, like Greta Thunberg, who comes up and tells us you guys have never taken care of the world, and what you are giving us, nature, or the world you are giving to us is not what the generation can accept. It's toned down. Everything is done, and this is a very big dilemma, which is that politicians, the peoples who are in the power position of the power, they are not acting. They're just talking. They're just talking and talking and talking. There was no real action which is happening. And the new generation, they want action. So there is a conflict which is also already growing between our generations and the generation which is coming. They're saying, you're giving us a world which is absolutely depleted with all resources. You can't give this world to us. We are not going to take this way. So that kind of, that kind of activism is coming up. And you being such an author, and you've been talking about sustainability in such a broad range, if you narrow down and if you say that, well, what do we do now from here? One step, two step, because there is an unrest on the generation which is coming to the world. Our kids, the people who would be inheriting from us this world, they were absolutely angry with us, and there had been a angry exchange of words. The politicians, they are blaming the politicians, they're blaming everybody that they were not being done from the point of carbon emission, from the point of putting the regulations, following the regulations, things are not done properly. So what do you say? It's what I am coming up is from a very theoretical background or from a theoretical understanding to a very practical, doable step. What are the politicians, what are the UN and all the organization, as an author, as a thought leader, what do you suggest them, what they should do right now?
I think that the battle is being fought in the wrong place. Because I think the takeaway from everything is very simple. Sustainability affects everything we all do every day in our normal lives. It's not something to fear, it's reality, it's best practice. And if we all understand that whatever we're doing, whenever we're doing it, we're doing something about sustainability, that's the first lesson that we will learn. The second part of that is that if we all start to do it as part of our general life, it's a lot easier to achieve change. It's a lot easier to start respecting other people, other cultures, and other ways of life. And sustainability becomes the norm. And at the moment, it is not the norm. It's been hijacked by multinationals, by governments, by all sorts of people, but it's got to come back to being the norm, what we do every day of the week. And once we understand that, we can make a lot of changes because our past is our present. Our future is the combination of our past and what we're doing presently. So past, present, future are linked together. And we need to stop and, as we say, smell the roses and understand that we're all in this together and that we cannot rely on governments and big corporations to come up with the answers. We're the ones who turn the air conditioners on. We're the ones who go out and buy commodities that are intended to last for 5 minutes. We accept all of that. We can't. We have to understand that what we do affects our neighbours. And what I term the concentric effect, where if you look at sustainability at its core, yes, but then the next level out, what you do in your suburb affects what you do in your state, affects your country, affects how your country interrelates to other countries around the world. So we're all in this together. It's all interrelated. And until we all stand up and go, wow, we better do something about it ourselves, governments won't listen. Corporations won't listen. We make the mistake of buying bottled water everywhere. Why? Most countries we can go to the tap, turn it on, and the water is fine. If it's not, maybe we should be spending the money that we're spending on bottled water in making civilizations have good drinking water naturally, rather than having bottled water and having to deal with the enormous environmental damage caused by bottled water. And it's the same with many, many products that we do today. There are different ways to deal with it. If we all work together and we all understand that our peace and our harmony is part of the world's peace and the world's harmony.
So that is a big blow. That's a big statement, and I think I should summarize it. It's very good. It's very good because you say something which is out of the way. You don't say that we have to do activism. You say that everybody has to change their life. It's not with some group of people that they has to do, and we go on and hitting out to them and say that, oh, you are not doing your job. It's everybody. All of us has to be responsible. And you know, it's a beautiful insight that we all has to think about it. It's also, you talk about something which is called interdependence. You know, you use the right term, that everybody
Absolutely.
is depending on other. It's not that you are living in an island. Your actions, what you do, what you are thinking, is affecting others. So we call it. There's a word particularly. It's called butterfly effect. Something happens somewhere very far, and it goes on creating certain kinds of effect across the world. So that is there. I mean, there is two important concepts we talk about. Is one is that the change has to happen. One, change has to happen, and change will happen when every individual of this planet take responsibility and they move towards it. One. Two is that we have to understand we are interdependent, right? We are all depending on each other. And once we understand that we are all agents of change and we are interdependent, then obviously we understand the effect, kind of effect which happens. Whatever we do has an effect, a global effect. It's not just, it is an effect is limited to what we do, but it has a far-reaching effect. So it's fabulous. It's fabulous. What you told is a kind of blueprint of what the people should do. I mean, if you want a world to be, it's not activism will bring. It's activism. Everybody has to change themselves. So that gives a blueprint of how we approach the future. Now, to end up this session, I have recently been writing a book called Yoga for Sustainable Living. And what you told right now is about sustainable living. Right now, what you told is 1, 3 points of sustainable living. You have to be a change agent. 2, you have to think interdependently. You have to understand. And third is that you have to understand how your actions affect the entire the world around you. So these three is what you told as a core basis of sustainable living. That means the way you are living is also helping other people to have a sustainable life and all other. So to just this is my last question to you. What do you think the 4 important factors every individual should take themselves in their mind to live sustainably in this planet?
Firstly, every person is in charge of themselves. And therefore, they're in charge of finding a way to establish their own peace and their own harmony. Forget everybody else trying to do it for them. They're in charge of it themselves. And if they can achieve that, they've achieved their own internal sustainability. And if they can be at peace with themselves, and we can get enough people at peace with themselves, we can make a lot of changes. So the second part of that is then understanding how what they say and do can affect a lot of other people. You look in the book, in one of my books called Islands Book 2, which deals with the Pacific, and you'll see a photograph there of one of the Pacific Islanders holding up signs that basically says, "Help me." Because what's been done around the world is being felt in low-lying islands in the Pacific, like Kiribati and various other places there, which are now underwater because of rising sea level. So once you've taken steps yourself to do what you can do, then you can participate in understanding how to help others in your area and other regions that you might be able to influence to also achieve those more sustainable, more traditional goals, and to start to understand that some of the indigenous people around the world actually know what they're doing, and that things like imperialism and that were potentially mistakes. And we start to understand how people know how to look after the land, how to look after the oceans, and respect them. If we could all achieve respect, we can all achieve harmony, we can have balance in what we do. Those 3 things will help us all achieve sustainability within ourself, our environment, and our area of influence.
Great. So the viewers, we have Alan with us, and Alan has given these 4 very important tips of to live sustainability. And the first tip comes with being peace with yourself, and that comes with respect. I think that will create balance with people. There will be a harmony, and once this harmony is created, people can live sustainably. And in this whole thing, people have to think interdependently. And we have we'll be mentioning on the description, you can find out the books of Alan Tupikoff, and they'll be there in sustainability. And obviously, this was a very interesting session, learning about Alan, about your books and about your thoughts, which is very vast. And it's too short session to actually capture all these subtle aspects of these thoughts and how it applies on practical areas, how people can do things based on these advice. So that's you probably have to give a series of sessions to go up in each book and individually try to say that, okay, what do you get out of this book? What do you can do? So, but this is a very good introductory session. We know about your world, about your books. And obviously, I have been also writing on yoga and sustainable living. So I'll be giving this link of this book in the description. So all of the viewers will be seeing this. They can actually go and get these books, and they can find out, they can ask questions. And it was lovely to have Alan in this session. And we are expecting to do something more, to go deeper, onto your understanding of sustainability, making it more simple, because yet you were right. The past statement which you said is very complex now. It's very, very complex now. There are so many things, and it's actually, many experts also will find it a confusing landscape. And I think you're doing a great job by trying to simplifying it, trying to put it to people where every person in this planet can practice it. It's not limited to certain even volunteers and even administration. It is, and some government people, it goes to every person in the world, and they can practice, they can live sustainably. You're doing a wonderful work. You're doing a fabulous work. And thank you, Alan, for coming in this show, in this session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time. Thanks.